We are investing in corruption.
We know everything. We can prove nothing. We want you to go in there as our agent. Get us our evidence. This is where you'll be going. An island fortress, really.
Sterling Silliphant called me up one day and she says, have you met, you know Bruce Lee? I said, who? No, I don't know. Well, he's the greatest there is. Absolutely greatest instructor. He's brilliant. You got to meet him. I said, oh, well, yeah, sure, okay, I'll meet him, you know.
We were just getting started and having been executives at Warner Brothers, and Sterling Silliphant and James Coburn came to us with a script called The Silent Flute that Sterling had written for Bruce to star in.
And then Bruce and I became great friends. I mean, we went out, we went to dinner, we talked about martial arts. He showed me some of the films, and I got very interested in the Chinese fighting thing, which never came over to America.
And we couldn't get anybody at Warner's interested in doing it.
Nobody was interested, really, in a Chinese lead.
And he was really anxious to become an American television star.
He wanted to be a star. I mean, he was just driven to that stardom.
I said, there is no way, Bruce, that you're going to ever get to really be seen here in America unless you have a piece of film. And it's not just the Green Hornet, that's television.
Bruce was too much for television. I mean, he was bigger than television.
So when Raymond Chow offered him the, I think it was The Big Boss, it was called, the first one, he said, well, I'm getting a little one. I said, take it. And he went back to Hong Kong because he didn't get the role in Kung Fu.
After Bruce went back to Hong Kong, he became miraculously successful. I mean, he became like the Beatles, that overnight hit in the Far East.
He'd never achieved that before at any time. I was on television where I guess they had a group of martial artists, and they were all breaking ice and bricks with their heads and with their elbows and everything, and they asked Bruce, who was sitting there looking askance at all of that, and said, well, what do you think about all of this? Well, I think that he can break ice with his elbow, or that he can break bricks. Well, what does that have to do with anything? That doesn't, well, okay, Mr. Smartass, let's see what you can do. And he says, no, I don't do any demonstrations. And everybody in the audience went, rah, 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 rah. And so he says, okay, just wrap up 3 of those square boards, foot wide, and put some tape on them. And so he yelled it out there, and he dropped it and side-kicked it, and it shattered. It just blew. It went up in the lights, and the lights went pow, pow, pow. And Bruce was he said, I was so shocked because he'd never done that thing before. It was just something that came to his mind. Pow! He acted his way back to his chair like nothing had happened. I mean, after that, of course, Run Run Shaw and Raymond Chow and everybody started vying for his attention.
Bruce and I spent a lot of time, went out. Bruce was interested in the project, there was no question. Raymond, on the other hand, was soft. And why was Raymond soft? Because he was making so much money on the pictures, he still wanted to have complete control and everything. So Raymond said, well, it's a shame it's not going to work, so we'll have dinner tonight. And so we went out to a Japanese restaurant, and we sat down for dinner, and as we're going through the meal, I said, Bruce, I'm leaving tomorrow. He said, why? I said, well, it's obvious that Raymond doesn't want you to be an international star. He understands that you're great as a local chopsaki guy, but Raymond doesn't. And he turned around to Raymond and said, make the deal. At which point, the next day, Raymond made the deal.
We have found this young writer who had no real credits, but it's somebody that I had an eye on for a while.
And then, Paul, you got this cockamamie writer who I had never heard of, who you love, Michael Allen.
You called me in and you said, we've got this wonderful, amazing guy named Bruce Lee. He makes movies in Hong Kong. You've never seen anything like it. Guess what? I want you to write a movie for him.
And he came up and he turned out a wonderful first draft.
It was wonderful because I didn't know anything about martial arts. I didn't know anything about Hong Kong, and I was learning along the way.
We really blocked it out.
It was so exciting, and I'll tell you the kind of energy we had on it. We did the first draft of the screenplay in 3 weeks, which is unheard of.
It happened so quickly because I think that Bruce was getting so hot.
And he'd gone back to Hong Kong, I think, in '71, and virtually in less than a year, he couldn't walk down the street. He was a major Asian star in Hong Kong.
He knew that if he kept making Chinese chopsakis, he'd stay in China the rest of his life. And he was anxious to show Coburn and McQueen and all the rest that he was an international, star.
We wanted to present him as this incredible, force of nature.
It was designed and executed for a particular star in a genre. And it had a real purity in that sense.
But he needed to be one of three. He needed to be the coolest of three heroes. And we worked very hard, consciously creating an international kind of movie that would present Bruce properly.
Well, when we got started, and there was very little time to do all these things, and the script had been sort of roughed in, and we knew a little bit about what we needed, we really needed to get some sets built if we were going to ever make the schedule. And when I was a kid, I grew up with this comic strip called Terry and the Pirates. And Terry and the Pirates was about China and the Orient and the mystery and dragon ladies. It was high chroma reds, blues, golds, and it just lent itself to this project so closely. Well, I brought in a sketch artist I knew named Dale Hennessy. Dale and I sat down and worked out the basic sets for the piece. The biggest one of all, the full studio-sized set, was the cave. Some of the prison areas where Bruce got caught in the cell and the doors clanging down. And then in the other studio, the banquet hall. These are large sets that needed a lot of thought. We put together enough material for me to bring over to Hong Kong and turn over to the Chinese designers. And they in turn took it and interpreted it, and I think did an outstanding job.
I think what Bob Klaus, the director, and I tried to do was to take the magical element of Hong Kong and bring a photographic style to that. Sometimes you'd look down a hallway and not see anybody until they came into the light. And I remember Bob was very insistent that he wanted it to be absolute black and then come into the light. And lighting-wise, that's kind of a challenge. Rather than light the whole cave, we used pools of lighting to try to make it very dramatic. We used smoke to sort of haze it out. Bob did this very neat shot from up above, and looking at it, it was kind of blah. It was just a bunch of people walking around on there. So someone had the idea to get like 100 bird cages. So we'd shoot through the bird cages, so you couldn't really see what was going on. You didn't really know who these people were, what was going to happen. So what we try to do, lighting-wise, is to add to that, to make it dramatic, to make it exotic.
Freddie and I talked about this at length, and the big problem is how do you have a film loaded with action in a contemporary situation where the hero has no guns?
Now, why doesn't somebody pull off 45 and bang, settle it?
No guns. Han would never allow guns on the island anyway. He had a bad experience with them once, and he's fearful of assassination. Can't really blame him. Any bloody fool can pull a trigger.
I guess I won't need anything.
And the villain creates the hero. You need a really sensational... I wanted Han to be the devil.
Gentlemen, welcome. You honor our island.
But the devil who believed in something and was dedicated to it, which is the worst